I'm 23 years old and I currently travel the world creating creatively ambitious opportunities for people online. And here's one thing I've learned. It's that you have to trust your instincts and embrace the mystery that follows. You have to, during this journey of going all in on yourself, you're going to be alone a lot of the times. Not everyone around you that you grew up with is going to believe in what you're doing or even understand what you're doing. And I've learned you need to take that energy that you'd often spend explaining it to them and put it into what you're actually building and identifying your purpose and your plans for execution on this path. Because as soon as you start doing that, the people, the opportunities, the experiences, they simply start to present themselves and you have to follow them. So if somebody approaches you that wants to help you grow your thing and you have to travel to go get there, this opportunity didn't exist before you started pursuing your passion. So embrace the mystery and get after it, because life gets a lot more exciting when you do that.
No, there's not much to it, but to everybody tuning in, welcome back to the Weekly Prophet. I know I'm wearing a different shirt, but this is my second episode of the day that I'm recording, so I'm super excited to have Faree with us today. A little backstory on how me and Faree got connected. I know you guys are starting to hear this group come up quite a bit, but again, through A-Players, both of us were just doing the thing online, got connected to James, had some like-minded conversations, and Faree, somebody I talk to honestly on a quarterly basis to check in with. So super excited to talk about your experience. It's very unique from where you come from and what you're building. And thanks for coming on.
Thanks, James. Thanks so much for Jack for having me over. I'm very excited to get to, just talk about, what we're currently building at the moment and also get into a bit of, what the future's looking like in terms of, what we're building as well.
Yeah, I think that's super valuable because, like I always say, the big purpose of this show is we showcase people that are in that process, in the journey of actually building it, and giving those that are also in kind of our age demographic and our stage of life the reality of what that process is. So yeah, man, kind of starting right with that, the reality of where we're at right now. I always like to ask my guests, like what's top of mind for you at the
At the moment, I just like to, just basically speak about like who I am and, how I've basically gotten to this position where I am. Basically Faree, I grew up I'm 21 basically. Got into the online or business space back in high school when I used to sell sweets. So I used to make like about 50 or to $100 per week, just reselling sweets, like the typical backstory of just getting into business because of selling sweets. Then obviously like shortly after, just finished school. And then after that, just basically got into the world of the online space, basically building. I had an app that I was working with my cousin back in the day. It was basically like a sandwich app, like a food sharing app. And like because of COVID, like what happened, because basically the app was, you basically share like let's say you wanted to have like a sandwich, but then you didn't know anyone else that had that specific sandwich that you wanted. So you could just go on the app and say, "Hey, who has a sandwich that's around?" and get that specific sandwich from someone. So it was just basically peer to peer sharing. And then yeah, so because of COVID and what happened, we basically had to scrap that because social distancing and everything that happened. But it was a fun journey. I really enjoyed what I learned, in business through that. And then shortly after, just got into the world of basically building websites, and that was really fun for me. Worked on a couple projects, I really really enjoyed it, but didn't really stick for me at that point in time. So I just decided, let me review tech on YouTube. So I did that for some time, just basically reviewing iPhones, and that really took off. Like I even got to the point where like I wanted, or not really, but I got close to getting sponsored by the iStore this side in South Africa. purely because of the videos that I was making and no one else was doing it. And if I continued, like I genuinely would be a lot further than I was. But then I felt like, had I continued just reviewing iPhones and things like that, I reached the point where like I was basically running out of things to say. Like, each year a new iPhone comes out, what different thing can you say, from what you said last year, so it's like I reached this point where like point of realization where I was like, is it really for me? Because I want to grow. I really want to build really cool things that really enable businesses to scale. And also for me, like I want to build, I want to build cool things, and I didn't see that as a way to, like really fulfill for me. I mean, short term, yes, it would have worked, but like longer term, I just decided, like I'm willing to sacrifice that and just build the long term future that I want to get to. And then said, you know what, the best way is basically the online space, just building really cool stuff and going back to my roots, of building websites and building web applications. And here we are.
Gotcha. Okay, so that's a lot to unpack, but I'm glad because I didn't know a lot of that before we chatted. Super. So you were building websites before, and then you left that, and now the sandwich idea is interesting. You mentioned peer to peer sharing, like
Yeah.
legitimately, like you could go to your neighbor's house who would make you that sandwich, or was it restaurants?
It was basically a combination of both. So like the way that I remember like how we were doing it was basically like, let's say you're at school and like the cafeteria doesn't have like what exactly you want, and the prices are so sky high. You can think of it like Uber basically, but basically for food. Like someone has what you want and then you can basically get that at a competing price. So then yeah, just basically like that.
Yeah, and so who would have the product? Would it be a business or would it be just like anybody?
It would basically be a combination of both. Someone
Like
appear
ghost kitchens.
and yeah, basically.
Okay, interesting. Because obviously we have Uber Eats, but this is taking place in South Africa, correct?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so talk to me about like challenges of that like initial first business, and talk to me about maybe some of the potential benefits you had, because that's just going to be something that I think people would want to know about. It's such an interesting, like kids could just order stuff from the cafeteria. Like I'll just tell you, like that wouldn't really happen here. They'd have to go through like 10 levels of security and then they'd be able to get it. It wouldn't just be like, oh yeah, pull up to the cafeteria and like get me a better sandwich because the school food here sucks. Anyway, yeah, so talk to me about that experience. It's really interesting.
Yeah, so basically that one was the challenges were obviously like you know you're at school, now you're getting food from someone else, you don't know where it's been and stuff like that. That was one of the challenges, that we had and that I was helping out with, to basically say like, hey, this food is cleared, and getting that, back authority to basically say like, hey, this food is safe. But from a perspective of, obviously the potential, the potential growth for it and potential benefit of it was basically like, hey, you could get food that you want immediately within the closest proximity and probably have a competing price. If someone had the same thing and you wanted something, you could basically get it like as
And,
fast as you would if you were not traveling, basically.
and did you build an app around this?
Essentially, I was helping out my cousin, so we were still basically in the process of that. So we were just, doing everything before, the whole COVID thing happened, and then just had to stop.
Gotcha. So kind of a sign to pivot, which is fair and
Mhm.
good thing before you probably dumped a lot more money into it. But that is an interesting, I mean, that's an interesting thing to talk about, and just seeing how that concept carries over. So then you come in and you get back into what was after the sandwich stuff again?
It was basically building websites.
Okay, so then you came back into building websites. So talk to me about building an online business. I think that's obviously where a lot of people are at. They want to know if this is a side hustle thing, if it's a full-time thing. What was your approach? Were you all in? Were you working multiple jobs? Like, when did you kind of decide, okay, I'm going to go back into taking online business seriously, and why?
Well, for me, I'm sure it's different for everyone, like the online space was never really consideration, in the beginning, because I was just like, let me just stick to, the school route and, just figure it out from there. But I always understood from a very early age, and when I was doing this selling of sweets, that business is like a shortcut, to creating value. In terms of like, you think about it like someone wants a service and then you're there to provide, and you're basically bridging the gap. That for me, like creating that value is something that I've always been really passionate about and really excited about. And I never really understood it until I got into an online space of building websites and creating value through that. For that, it's I would say it's different for everyone, like how everyone gets into it. But yeah, sorry, what was your question again?
Yeah, I was just curious. It's not. A lot of people watching this want to know the realistic approach to how do I know I'm actually ready to start an online business? Should I? Why do I want to? Etc. But I was just curious for you, having the experience with the first company and then obviously building websites in the past. Was it an easy transition to just say I'm all in with this, or did you also work part time? Are you like etc.?
Well, for me, like, I think it ties back to my personality as well. Like, I've always been an all-in person. Like, it's always all in, and I have to really be committed and believe in the project that I'm working on. Like I find it very hard, to just dive into something that I'm not fully passionate about, or like kind of uh, dip my toe a bit and not really go all in on. But I also am aware that sometimes going all in is not probably the best right approach, in terms of like you spend so much time to basically build something, but then it doesn't work out. But now, a thing that I've really kept in mind is that everything, like your where you are, is a result of the experiences and everything that you've learned. So taking the approach of just looking at it from that perspective of you know everything happened for a reason, in terms of like what you've learned and stuff like that, all builds the person and the character that you have today. So, for example, like if I didn't sell sweets back in high school and understand, just from my personality, because I realized that my biggest selling point when I was selling sweets was basically my brand and who I was, because everyone bought sweets from me because they knew I'm buying sweets from me. They knew that it's me that's buying sweets from them, and they would actively want to buy sweets from me. And then that made me realize that my biggest selling point would basically be me as a person. And now how do I frame that now into business? And now looking back, also the aspect of learning, you also learn how to sell to people, because now when I'm taking sales calls, before, if I didn't sell sweets, I probably wouldn't understand like how to frame the supply and demand, how to basically sell to someone. I think that's a very, very important skill. I know there's a lot of guys that are in the space that, sell courses and stuff like that. And I think, wherever you are, that, selling, being able to sell is such a key skill to learn, whatever you're doing. Even if you're a doctor, engineer, or whatever, you just have to learn how to sell, in any space that you're at.
100%. And I think, basically what I get out of that is you had the confidence to take it seriously again because you had the experience behind you. And it seems like, and this happened on the last podcast, um, a natural next step. It was kind of like I did see this through. COVID was very much out of my control, but here's what I learned from it, and here's what I'm good at, and I like doing that, and I know I can sell that, and I know people want that, and it was very much just follow. You didn't question it, which I like because like you're still 21, like you haven't questioned it,
Yeah.
which is awesome. I think the biggest problem people face is they get around people or things and they they question themselves when the same energy, it takes more energy to question yourself than it does to just believe that it's all going to work out for the best and continue to take the actions that follow. But you got to turn the blinders off. Like I always say, I'm in that phase right now where it's just like I just want to be tunnel vision, booking a lot of podcasts, talking to a lot of good people, and like you said, I really like that you hit on the more you learn, the more your personality will kind of take shape, or like it becomes who you are. So by just focusing on the learning and not forcing who you are, then you don't have to worry about it. Because I can tell you're someone who studies your craft, and like obviously I study podcasts and do that, and then it comes out when you talk to people. So I really like that you hit on that. Where does a lot of this come from? Call it wisdom, call it XYZ. Like these lessons, I always say there's lessons we're learning and there's lessons learned. When did this kind of become a lesson learned for you, as far as the more I learn, kind of the better, like the less I have to worry about who I'll become?
I guess it basically it came from two things. Actually, just doing things, trying and failing, because that's a very important thing. Like I used to be terrified of failing. To be honest, I used to be terrified of losing and just failing. The older that I've grown, I've realized that failing is one of the key things that keeps me going. Like I love to fail. You probably don't hear a lot of people say that, but like my biggest lessons and things that I've learned come from when I fail, and it's about understanding that. And when you do understand that, you just you need to. The second thing is, now you need to just like reflect. Like do like journaling probably every single day. I do daily journaling and just reflecting on how far I've come and how far I want to get to. That's also a very important aspect to it.
Yeah, you keep your mind in alignment. I think Arlen, I have to shout him out here because he's got that tool called Maxi. And there's a big saying with Maxi where it's like when you take the time to design your mind designs your life.
True.
And
True.
that is something that, however you decide to practice that, you don't have to do everything. But as long as you're doing something, you're going to put yourself in a more favorable position to have things naturally flow your way. I've noticed that 100%, even just since I started, like, again, to shout the app again, but like, just since I committed to that for like the last 30 days, I was like, I set a goal to like add 3K a month to the business. And I was like, damn, and how often do we operate in life when we don't have those, when we're not reminding ourselves of our goals for 30 days in a row? So like yours
True.
is writing. I used to be in that phase where I'd write a ton. And then now recently I just kind of put my notes like in my schedule for the day, like write if you feel like it. So if there's something really on my mind, I'll get it out. But I don't like restrict myself to it, but I also have the other things like maximum. So I like that. Let's kind of dive down the mindset side of things, because obviously being an entrepreneur, we've talked about this. Things get lonely. You have high months, you have low months. What would you say has been the toughest obstacle you've overcome in the last 12 months?
Months. I would say the mindset. What I would say, I've the toughest challenge that I would say I've overcome in the past 12 months was probably imposter syndrome.
Cool.
That was a very big one, especially before I transitioned to like getting back to just building what I'm building at the moment, building scalable systems for dentists in a sense. So I'd say because I was doing a lot of things, a lot of different things, it was very difficult for me to really understand who I was, like losing track of who I was and what I wanted to get to. You know, I don't know if a lot of people speak about it, but like imposter syndrome, you sometimes you often go through that phase where like you're just trying different things and you're hearing so many things from other people, but just literally taking a step back and saying like, hey, what is the advice that I'm literally listening to, because it has such an effect on you, because everyone else, like, to be honest, is saying like, hey, do this, this is the most profitable. And as like as strong mentally as you are, sometimes you get susceptible to that, and you start doing things that hurt your business in the long term, but in the short term, you it seems right in the short term, but like in the long term, you know, it harms your business more, and you mentally it becomes a lot more difficult, because now it's like you've built so much of this, mental inertia, where now you just want to do everything. But the saying, like, a jack of all trades, a master of none, and you kind of lose track of that, just by doing so many things. But now, I'd say I've overcome that to an extent, like I've now just basically been focusing on one thing and one thing only, and just trying to take care of myself mentally as well sometimes, because when you do push out those 12, 16 hour work days, you know you sometimes often doubt yourself, when you saying, like, when you don't see immediate results, you working for 12, 16 hours consistently daily, and in 2 months or 3 months, you don't see anything. And it's hard mentally, because it's like, are you even, what you're working for, is it even feasible? Is it really, because when you're surrounded with people that not necessarily like can see you or are used to what you're trying to build for yourself, it's very hard to convey that message. And then when it doesn't work out, it's like everyone's looking at you, and it's like, like, you have to now succeed. But and when you do fail, they're like, oh yeah, I knew he was gonna fail. So now all of those things do play, their roles, in you having to overcome that. But you just have to believe, and for me, I've just had to, believe who I am and stay true, and know that in my heart it's definitely gonna work out. And also, like, with the imposter syndrome, just stick to one thing and become a master at it. Don't get shiny object syndrome, in terms of like, oh, this is the new thing. You see so many people start different things, but you need to stick it out, like James said this at the time, like, you need, it's who lasts longer that prevails. I may be butchering it, but yeah.
No, it's the truth. I always say that one of my favorite sayings is you only lose when you quit. And like
True.
anytime I think back to when I almost gave up on this thing, I got sick to my stomach, because that is what losing feels like. I'd had $5,000, $10,000 checks signed that bounced from clients that I was supposed to get from, and it didn't feel as sick as like being like, okay, maybe I'm not built for this. And so yeah, it's a real thing. You really only lose when you quit. And like the ones who Cal Scrubby, who's like an artist that I used to listen to in high school, and he like has a bar where he's like, everyone around you will seem like they're doing stuff, and like you're falling behind, or like you're not doing where they're at, or whatever. But he's like, the ones who make it are the ones who don't stop. He's like, all those guys, like all those mother effers or whatever, are gonna stop. And I'm like, so I always remember that back in my mind. It's just like, keep like a little bit. Anything is better than zero. I think when people are like, oh, it's so hard to do something 10 years straight, it's not if you're not trying to do a year's worth of work in 5 months every single day of your life, like, or 10 hours worth of work in 2 hours. Are there days where that gets done? 100%. Are there days where it takes 10 hours to do 2 hours worth of work? Yes, as you know. The fact that we showed up every day is all people should give a shit about. And like one of my missions is just get people to think about that. Just don't have any 0 days, and you'll be so much further off. I can tell from your content that this has been a consistent run. And has this been your most consistent, you'd say, over the course of, you trying things?
Yeah, I would say on the back end, the things that I don't necessarily post or share to the public, I'd say it has been a lot consistent. I have, just had this recent drive, but motivation sometimes runs out. But I've had this streak right now where I've just basically been able to push, every single day and staying consistent, because now I know that, what is the goal, and how am I actively working towards that goal on a consistent basis. 1% better is the target each and every single day.
Yeah. And now, judging by the fact that you're in this game at 21, how far ahead do you think Like, do you think about your 5-year plan at all? Or are you focused primarily on just like in the moment? Like, talk to me about that because I'm like a couple years older, but I know a lot of my audience, like some of them not as established as you, some potentially more. But I mean, it's a long road, man. Like some people don't pick up a business thing until 30.
So to be honest, I do think about it long term, like probably not a lot of people will say this, but I don't necessarily do it for the sense of, getting monetary gain. Like that's not my main motivator at the moment. My main motivator would basically be creating value and the values cycle. That is where I'm most, passionate and, enthusiastic about. So I do think about that in the long term. Like right now, strategy wise, I basically focusing on the online game because I want to gain the experience in business as well as, get the reps in, like really understand like how business is because I see the online space as a great launching for that in terms of like getting into now the real world businesses, which I do want to get to eventually, but those are so capital intensive that like the online space is a good cash flow to get that initial cash flow in and then understand business at the same time so that you can build the online businesses, I mean the real world businesses that you see like the Coca-Colas, the Targets, the Tesco's, right?
Yeah, no, I know where you're going with it, Costco.
Costco,
But
yeah, sorry.
yeah, that was close. It's all right. That's Diddy's favorite spot, but we won't go there. Anyway, dude. Yeah, that like I can relate. I can relate a lot. I think like just in terms of sorry. Yeah, you're talking about real world business. Like this is an interesting time. A lot of these real
Mhm.
world businesses, we call them that because they didn't exist in a time where it was even possible to have an online business. It's still very new overall. Compared to industries like if you want to go as far as like fucking steel and like farming goods,
Mhm.
like those industries have been around, tested times. Software has been around for a decent amount of time, but not at this intelligence level. So like when we get into the AI conversation, it's like you can continue, yeah, like continuing to evolve and expose yourself into this online space is so powerful because it's so early. 20 years from now,
True.
you're the guy with 30 years experience that some people couldn't possibly have 10. And so it's a powerful time. I think more people should pay attention to it.
True.
So where do I want to go with this? I feel like that's a common theme. This is like almost becoming a transition on all my shows where I'm like, okay, we've hit on some very valuable stuff. I like that you've given us a real account of how it's going, in terms of your journey to building the actual business. Talk to me about, I hate the word networking. I think I consider it more connection and connector kit launching soon. Shameful, unshameful plug. It's my show. I don't care. But talk about your ability to make connection. Where do you go in this space? How do you find other like minds? Do you have any local opportunities that you're doing that, or is it mostly digital?
So, I don't think a lot or at least from my surroundings and things like that. I don't think a lot of people, focus in on networking and actually, getting access to people and actually forming genuine connections. Because that has been one.
Why?
That's such
I
a
gotta
good
know.
question. But I would say it's just not putting themselves out there more, just actively seeking the information because I personally see like myself no different to connecting to you. Like I don't go in the to conversations with the intentions of like, hey, how am I going to benefit, but rather, hey, how am I going to provide value for you, like how am I going to provide value for Jack. It's not necessarily about, like, hey, what do I want from you, and just forming genuine connections because I do see that as a network effect. Like you know people that I don't know, and I know people that you probably don't know, and us just having that platform where we can just connect, allows us to share knowledge, just to increase our knowledge base, so that's super powerful, you know
Yeah. And like in terms of like, how are you going? How do you like? you're a product of your environment, right? So right now
Yeah.
you're spending a lot of time indoors, obviously building your business. Is it mostly A players that you go to as far as like other social networking opportunities, or are you going to like mastermind events and stuff like that?
Only A-Players because it's the best.
Yeah, yeah, true, right? That's what we're paid to say. No, I'm kidding. It is the best though, because I don't know. I'm not a seriously unshameful plug. It is the best because it's consistent, and I just don't want to like too much information is never a great thing. Like it keeps things focused. But okay, let's talk about A players then. What's been your favorite part about being in that group? If you had to pinpoint one thing.
I would say it's the ability to solve problems whenever I do have them and to ask people. Because a lot of, like, I would say you might see it as like, hey, you're paying, for access to someone, but sometimes, like, if I said that you could have an hour with Elon Musk for $5,000, you'd definitely say yes. So now it's like, sometimes you definitely do have to, pay for for invest into yourself, sorry. So I see it more as like you need to invest into yourself, more. You can do it, you can probably do it, but not at the scale as you would with a community of others. There's actually a book, I don't know if you know it, Think and Grow Rich, where it talks about the power of the mastermind. And you realize that, like, had it not been for communities and platforms like A-Players, like, I probably wouldn't be at the stage that I'm at. Because, for example, like a simple thing like, hey, I'm not getting enough consistent leads, what could be the problem? B, it's because I'm not outreaching more. That information would usually take a long time, maybe like me going over and over through internet. But now with the power of A-Players, I can just, literally text people like Tamir, you, like, hey, I'm doing this. What could be the potential problem that you see outside of what I'm seeing at the moment? And then basically solve it right there and then, which now helps me move my business forward and creates like quick thinking, quick solutions to problems that I'm facing within my business. So I would say that has been the one thing.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that's like I'm glad you pinpointed that because that's a hard thing to like describe, and it really is just that instant access to. And like I have a problem, somebody in the group can answer it or has already faced that because everyone's at different levels. There's guys that are 10 years into their career in there, and there's guys that are on day one. I also think it's interesting to see what kind of questions people are asking because maybe that problem comes up in the future. And I literally just scroll back and I'm like, oh, that somebody dropped a video on that. I can just look at it. Like that is very valuable because it's not like structured, pitchy bullshit problems. It's like literally 12:07 on a Tuesday. Like Sally Mae said this to me, and I need to make sure I don't lose this deal. Like it's that type of specific stuff, which I like. So cool,
For
man.
sure.
Yeah. Continue if you had anything to add to that.
Yeah, so I would say, like, just having that platform is really powerful. And, I'd say, actively seeking information, like joining platforms like A-Players was one of the key needle movers for me this year, especially because had I not known people like James and like, I probably would have been stuck in the same place. And that investment into yourself is so key because now, like, I've had conversations with people like Dan Martell. I had spoken to William Brown yesterday, and just basically having those people around, that have faced, what you've faced, and have the knowledge and are way ahead of you, but now you learning from them as well, helps you move your business, not even just your business, but also your personal life, like your actively way better having that community. And even like the trips, like, I know I haven't been on the trips yet, but I can just say, like, the trips are so worth it because now let's say like you go there and you meet someone that you probably just have seen on on the internet, you get to actively ask questions, and I think that's where the key point is. Like, you can have like mentorships and things like that, but the key point is being able to ask questions, because I could go to a YouTube video and say, hey, like, I'm watching videos about Jeff Bezos and he's giving business advice, but that advice may not be, necessarily tailored for me. And that ability to be able to ask questions, that's where I see the real value in, like, platforms like A-Players, and just seeking that knowledge.
Yeah, I agree, 100%. And it's like the overall, just the like, you get exposure to high level people like Dan Martell, and I like that you pointed out that it's about asking the right questions. It's not just showing up to these calls and observing. It is knowing what questions to ask, but also by showing up for yourself every day naturally. Like, it's just the way the universe works. Like, you're gonna have these meetings on purpose. There's no coincidence. There's nothing. Nothing is a coincidence. But like, again, like, it's no coincidence that the day Dan Martell was supposed to talk to us, he reschedules for 3 weeks later, and I just happened to be interviewing his business partner like literally 30 minutes after. So I'm able to ask him what he would ask his business partner. Like, that comes from doing the thing, like those little, and becoming aware of it. But I can just tell you that because I can tell you're in tune. And that's really where this momentum comes from. It's trusting your instincts, seeing them come through, seeing the results day after day, just 1% better. And that is momentum kind of growing each day. And you've been able to do that. Yeah. Is there anything on the part of like scaling your agency that you want to talk to, maybe get a clip out of or something, in terms of helping the brand and whatnot? Otherwise, I'll move on from the business side of it.
In terms of scaling, in terms of scaling, I want to, like, with the agency, we want to be the best at helping dentists grow. I know that sounds like, it's not too common that you hear that, but we want to genuinely provide value, in a sense of like allowing dentists to be able to have a platform where they can essentially grow their business, and also like manage their patients, and scale, buy them their time, where they probably would have processes that would be labor intensive and manual, like the manual tasks that they would normally do. Basically allow them to get rid of that and automate, and basically scale their businesses. Not just build websites that are there for aesthetics, but rather those are tailored to conversions, and that actually drive business growth and creates value for them and also for their patients.
Perfect. That's awesome, dude. Yeah, I like that. I think that's very specific in terms of just outlining who you are, who you help, and how you do it. So
Sure.
that's spot on, man. Now, kind of transitioning this. Now we've kind of talked community. We've talked about what's currently going on, obviously in the agency. I just want to highlight your expertise a little bit more. What are some common things you see in terms of websites that perform better than others? And if you want to get dentist specific, you can.
I'd say it has to do with optimization, in the sense that, like, most websites are built in a manner that, the colors aren't matching. You get there and you can't even ask, the questions. When you build a website, the main thing and the approach that we take is being able to answer all of those questions in a streamlined way that allows you to get the information that you're seeking. Because when you on when you are on a platform, you want the questions to, you want the questions in your mind to be answered in a way that it creates less resistance in the buying process. So you want the process to be as seamless as possible, so that when you do get onto the website, you're able to just say like, hey, all of my questions have been answered, and it's been easy to navigate. So where we see the problem is most websites, or at least around here, they're just built, just for presence purposes. But it's not about that anymore. It's more about like, what can you actually do? If you're having a website that's not even converting, how do you even track your metrics for conversions? Do you even have SEO that allows you to track your, that allows for your websites to be ranked number one. It's just all those small things that aren't taken into consideration from what we've seen. Is like so many people just build websites or design websites and they just leave it at that. But like, what is the ROI in terms of revenue growth for that dentist or practice that is actually driving the main reason why they have that platform there? And a lot of consideration needs to be taken into how does this website not just help me from a presence perspective, but how does it drive business growth? And how do you track those? Like, how do you track how it drives business growth month in, month out? Like, what metrics do you have that allow you to see, like, hey, these are the bottlenecks? Like, where are the customers having the most difficulties? Like, are they not converting because it's confusing to see? Is the website confusing? And how many bookings are we getting per day, per month, in terms of, like, our lead magnets? Are they working? And just really understanding the end-to-end system on that in terms of websites and conversions, because they're both linked in my perspective. Like, you can't do one thing and not do the other, just tracking each and every bottleneck, and that allows your business to basically understand, where can you improve and where is there room for growth.
100%. I love that, dude. I think that really. I'm glad I asked you that question. Sorry, I'm glad I asked you that question because it definitely highlights that you know what you're talking about, and it's something I've grown to learn just by communicating with you. So yeah, man, I would say now we'll kind of get into the wrap up questions. All the guests get to ask me one question, first thing that comes to mind, and then we kind of go.
Great. What has been the most difficult challenge that you've faced in terms of business, whether it be this week, this today, last month?
Yeah,
What has
I'll
been?
probably. I mean, there's like I said, there's challenges every day. I think at the end, I think challenge number one, accept that there's going to be challenges every day. That's what I had to get over. Is I thought it was going to be easy. I thought it was going to be fun. I thought I was going to like, and it is fun. It's fun to me because I think chaos is exciting. But like, it takes some sort of sickness to enjoy that every day. So yeah, expect the first challenge. Expect there like don't not expect there to be challenges every day, but something that I think is useful that maybe some people face. You hit on imposter syndrome. That's a good one. I think a positive spin on imposter syndrome is if you're feeling it, it's because you're trying and you're doing something right, and eventually you'll find your groove. Just prove it. Take more action and provide more proof. Provide more undeniable proof. The easiest way to get over imposter syndrome: do the thing and stop fucking talking about it. So like plain and simple. Okay, business challenge. Damn. Let's say I have recently learned to to take a more to be more specific with who I work with and who I hire. So who I decide to bring into my team and who I decide to bring on a client, I've decided to take ownership of versus being the kind of like everything for the masses. So two ways I've like approached that. So the biggest challenge was I just let too many I was saying yes to everything within the business. Yes to any client who would pay any sort of money, yes to any sales rep who wanted to sell. And so the biggest challenge I overcame was um, trusting myself enough and building processes that unless they fit this criteria, I don't work with them and I don't work for them. So what are those criteria in terms of how somebody could potentially eliminate some things? Is I am upfront when I talk to new sales reps. I'm upfront with what our offer is first, and if it's something they believe in and a product they would buy or want to buy or actually believe in it they can sell, that is question number one. Would you buy this? Yes or no? If they say no, there's no need to continue the conversation. I'm not going to pitch my offer to make some like when I'm giving somebody an opportunity to make money on it. And then when it comes to clients, I'm very much our product serves this person and typically they're doing XYZ thing and they have XYZ goals. We've outlined a few of those goals here and our price is this much and I'm upfront about the price. And then if we can't move forward from there and we can't move forward from the downsell, then I don't waste 45 minutes on sales calls anymore trying to feel bad for people and go down the guilt trip route and sell stuff for $100. It's not the business I'm in. My sales calls are 15 to 20 minutes. I show you who we are, who we help, and proof that we've done it and how much it costs. And you tell me if it's something that you need right now or if you want to interview 10 other people that are going to try to sell you the same thing. And that's fine because it's not the same. But so yeah,
Sure.
the biggest challenge, just like it's tempting to say yes to everything because as entrepreneurs, we always are trying to create opportunity. So anybody who takes an interest in this or that, we want to say yes, we want to do this, but you can't. You have to establish
Sure.
boundaries. And it is going to take some time of going through bad relationships and going through bad clients and bad business partners. But frankly, like anything, once it happens once or twice, it is totally up to you when you decide to let it happen again. I let it happen a lot, maybe for too long. Okay. But you can let it happen 4 or 5 times, listen to this podcast and be like, okay, what do I want in a dream client? What do I want in a dream sales rep or team member? And don't bring anyone in the door that doesn't have that. It might take longer, but it lasts longer. At the same time, if you wait 10 months, you'll get that 10 years back in the person not leaving. So long way to answer that question. But I know we've got a few minutes left. So just kind of moving on from there. Do you have any comments on that? And then we'll kind of wrap it up.
Not quite. I actually have one more question.
Yeah.
I think it's a very important one in terms of like where we're at and anyone watching this is how do you navigate the days where everything gets dark as an entrepreneur? How do you find like your purpose in that?
Yeah. Well, I walk. So that's step one. Literal, no pun intended. Start moving because if you sit in that, you're just going to create more of it. Yeah, man. I mean, the dark, it always is. You just have to admit to yourself that you're judging a situation. And if you read meditations or listen to it like I did, you're not here to judge anything. Like there's nothing in this world is good or bad. So whether you hate me for saying that, you're judging me using the word hate, whatever. But like, I'm just saying, like nothing is good or bad. It's just going to be the lens from which you're looking at it. You can look at losing 10, like I had a month, dude, where, and not a lot of people know this. We scaled to 10K a month and we lost it all 3 weeks later. And it wasn't for a second where I was like, I couldn't do that again. It was just more like, what is this trying to teach me? And what it taught me was I can't work 14 hours a day for 30 days straight and provide good quality work to clients without a team, without a sales team, making sure I always have leads, without quality skilled videographers doing quality content, without like I was selling short form content. I didn't even like, I barely picked up a camera. Like, fuck. But I saw it work. But then classic, a dummy can get a business to 10K a month, dude. But a smart person sustains it, and an idiot like me loses it. Like at that time, right? Like bad word there, but whatever. So yeah, like how do you deal with the negatives? You really just like the dark days. You just flip the switch. What is this trying to teach me? It's not it's happening for you, not to you. So you got to just laugh at it and be like, this is happening for me for some reason. And I like couldn't tell you what, but that's the point, right? Like now you know what you're looking for, I think is also interesting. Like you can use that to your advantage. Like if looking for why it happened puts you on a track to where you're not lost because now you have something to focus on, then just spend the next week trying to figure out why that happened. And you might feel better about it because you freaking tried. But if you just dwell on it or you ignore it or it's just like anything, it might just get worse. Maybe it'll go away, but if it's really important to you, it probably won't. So you might as well figure out why. Just like we say on sales calls, just ask yourself why, and you might find the right question from there. But yeah, man, that was a good question. Any final thoughts, man? Anything we have to look forward to? I got about 2 minutes till my next call, so that's why I hate to wrap it up, but we'll do another one in person soon on one of the trips and stuff like that for sure.
Well, I'd just like to say thank you for your time and thanks for having me on. Really enjoyed it and hopefully be back in the future,
Yes, sir. We'll do a free part 2, man. Yeah. And where can we find you? Where can we find you?
You can find me on Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube. You can definitely find me. Just reach out to me, whatever you need. I'm
Yeah.
there.
Yep. And Dennis, listening to this, Faree's your guy. I'm going to link all his stuff in the bio. Faree, thank you so much. And if you listen
Thank you
this
so
far, I want to make a point to say I sincerely appreciate you. Please like, subscribe, do the duties, and follow us both on all our channels. We will be sure to connect back with you. Love y'all. And we do that.